Hello, everybody, and welcome to the SD Times live microwebinar series. This series is with a testing company called mabl, and in today's live, we'll be continuing our discussion on various testing topics. Today, we'll be talking about bridging the gap between deployment frequency and change failure rate. In this 10-minute microwebinar, you'll learn how to build reliable automated tests, track issues efficiently, and build meaningful coverage. With me today is Krista King, Product Manager at mabl, and now I'll kick things over to her.
Thanks, Jenna. Go ahead and share my screen here. All right. So hi, everyone. Thanks for joining me today. My name is Krista King, and I'm a product manager at mabl, which is a low-code test automation platform. I'm here to discuss how development and quality teams can bridge the gap between deployment frequency and change failure rate so that your users can get access to new features and bug fixes as soon as possible without running into app failures and interruptions. So before we talk about bridging the gap between deployment frequency and change failure rate, we should probably talk about what those metrics are and where they come from. For those that might not be familiar, DORA stands for DevOps Research and Assessment, which is a team that was first introduced by Google and who have been researching the DevOps space for the last 6 years. And as a result of their research, they've identified 4 key metrics that indicate the performance of software development teams. These metrics can be split up into 2 dimensions. Pipeline velocity, which includes deployment frequency and lead time for changes, and pipeline stability, which includes change failure rate and mean time to restore service. To break those down a little bit further, deployment frequency measures the number of deployments that your team makes to production. So when a development team has an easy and often used deployment pipeline in place, there's a positive correlated impact on lead time for changes and mean time to recovery. Additionally, it's been shown that high-performing companies tend to ship smaller and more frequent deployments, which has widely been accepted as a best practice. Lead time for changes speaks to the amount of time it takes for a commit to get into production. This is measured by starting the clock at the time the commit is made with the time it takes to deploy to production. The average time is used as an indicator of your team's lead time for changes. And if the lead time is considered high or trending in the wrong direction, then DevOps teams can look to streamline processes and adopt best practices that break down products and features into smaller, more manageable chunks of code. On the pipeline stability front, the change failure rate metric measures the percentage of deployments that lead to a failure in production. This is calculated by the number of deployment failures over the total number of deployments. In essence, it measures the reliability of your software development and deployment processes. And then finally, mean time to restore service is how long it would take an organization to recover from a failure that's made it into production. As you're deploying frequently, bugs or hiccups are almost a certainty. It's unreasonable to think that you can eliminate all unplanned incidences, but lowering the time it takes for your team to respond and restore services is something that you do have control over, and it makes all the difference in rectifying those issues. And collectively, these metrics have become a North Star for quality and development teams as a way to improve their overall efficiency and effectiveness of their general operations. So in the next few minutes, I'll explore how quality practitioners can make a positive impact by optimizing their deployment frequency and change failure rates. In other words, we'll look at how testing can help our teams move faster without hurting the customer experience. Software testing has long been a primary source of bottlenecks in nearly every organization focused on delivering value through digital applications. Simply put, manual and automated testing is hard to implement and it's hard to maintain. On one hand, manual testing is time-consuming, it's difficult to integrate into automated pipelines, and it's full of human error. Teams who try to remedy the challenges of manual testing with automation tools can find themselves wasting time by relying on highly technical frameworks that require skilled engineers and infrastructure teams to spin up and maintain. And depending on the size of the test suites, can find themselves in another release bottleneck, especially if the test parallelization isn't implemented effectively. And then once tests are created, it's often a challenge to maintain them, which can lead to test automation debt. It's not uncommon for developers to turn off or ignore automation tests when it's getting in the way of their development velocity, which of course leads to quality gaps in product releases, and ultimately it can lead to a poor user experience. Essentially, the end goal is represented in the image shown here, a seamless handoff from developers through quality and into a successful production release. So how does testing play an important role in managing change failure rates? Test automation makes it possible to provide adequate coverage for core customer experiences that may be at risk when frequent deployments take place. Generally, products with a low test coverage are at risk for missing defects and are more likely to cause significant failures when new code is released to end users. Ineffective regression and smoke testing is slow, it can be time-consuming, and it's more likely to miss issues. The ideal testing strategy looks something like the graphic shown here, where the purple triangle covers testing scenarios, attributes, and environments, which positively impacts change failure rates by increasing the overall test coverage and eliminating product defects as much as humanly possible. Low-code test automation platforms like ours at mabl give you the scale, data, and power needed to maintain effective coverage and positively impact the DORA metrics that your leadership is looking at. We do that by streamlining test creation by providing a low-code, easy-to-use tool, reducing test maintenance by leveraging machine learning techniques like auto-healing, providing rich diagnostic data that helps teams quickly understand and fix defects, reporting on page coverage, which provides insights into coverage of those core customer use cases, and then finally, by supplying a unified platform for quality testing that includes functional and non-functional testing. And then I thought we'd finish up just talking about a quick case study from one of our customers, Whirl, which is a cloud technology company powering the world's CTV ecosystem with an industry-leading platform for advertising, marketing, and distribution. Their development cycles and product updates are heavily dictated by customer needs, which means it's essential that code releases are both bug-free and delivered quickly. Before mabl, they relied heavily on scripted test automation frameworks that required too much time and effort for test creation and maintenance. Their regression testing was primarily manual and required several days of effort, which slowed down their release cycles and meant customers had to wait longer for both new features and bug fixes. Low-code test automation enabled the Whirl QA team to learn new test automation skills and reduce regression testing time to less than a day. And to finish up with a direct quote from Whirl, "We get the most of value out of our regression suites, and we run them every day. Before mabl, we had to run them manually, and that made it hard to guarantee routine testing. Now we can easily execute those regression suites in addition to regular smoke testing for bug fixes. Automating these valuable but routine tests saves us a lot of time." And that is it for my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions if you may have any.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Krista. I'm not seeing any questions in the chat, but if anyone has any questions after the fact, we'd definitely be happy to pass them on to Krista and get you an answer. Once again, you can watch all the replays of the videos on our website. Thanks for tuning in.